Hi, this is JP. Uh, Finally, I'm working on the Castle Hot Springs video. I feel like Jimmy Rance when he said did an Academy Award winning performance, and then something happened to his computer and he lost it. So we'll never know, but that's what happened. I had one all ready to be uploaded today, and it disappeared. I don't know where it went. So I'm going to have to try to recreate it. Castle Hot Springs. I did a whole lot of research, trying to find some pictures. I don't know what happened to mine. I had a few, but somehow they were lost in the fire, I guess, so to speak. So I did a lot of research, and there's a lot of pictures on the internet of it. The old time. There's even some black and white ones that are out there. But I waited to get permission from some of the guys to use them. Some of the photographers. I haven't heard a thing from them. So what I'll do at the bottom of the page is put a link to their pages so you can go and look at them. Actually, there's just one site that has a lot of pictures on it. It's things that I remember working there. In 1860, I'm going to read this that I'm pretty sure Joe Hall. Oh, I didn't tell you who Joe Hall was. He's a family friend. I called him up. I found him. I called him on the phone. He's still a realtor here in Arizona. Excuse me. And I saw some of his pictures that were credited to him. So I called him and asked him if I could use his photos in a YouTube video, and he said, of course. He didn't quite recognize me at first, but as soon as I said my mother's name, he remembered her for sure. She was pretty much unforgettable, I think. Well, she is to me. So anyway, ghosttowns.com is his site. Y'all can go and look at it there. I think he wrote this article. I'm not sure, but so I'm not going to quote him, but here's what's on the site. In 1865, this is going to be kind of a little history lesson to get it set up, so y'all will kind of know what Castle Hot Springs was and is now. 1865, Colonel Charles Craig, commander at the Prescott Fort Whipple, pursued a group of Indians that had just raided a nearby mining camp. The pursuit ended when the troops defeated the Indians and stopped to rest at what is now known as Salvation Peak. It took an act of Congress, jumping back and forth in history fairly recently, to get a flag to fly 24 hours a day. That was approved, and every now and then the people that worked there had to climb that mountain, change the flag, or do whatever they had to do to make it look good. I thought there was a light on it, but I'm not sure now. I was never the one that could climb that mountain. It took a better man than me, that's for sure. So anyway, the surrounding peaks resembled castles, and a creek at the bottom prompted the men to name the area Castle Creek. After finding the elusive magic waters, that was what the Apaches called it. It was a pretty big secret to them that they named it Magic Waters or Hot Springs. The Apaches, they named the area Castle Hot Springs. It says 400,000 gallons of water, hot water, comes out of the ground there at the top every single day. And it comes out very hot. the pool, the top hot pool. Nobody would go in that. It was just, I don't know, I think it was like 190, 180, 190 degrees or so. And then would flow down the mountain into a natural pool, and it would flow out of that pool down a little ways into another natural pool, and each time that it dropped in coming down the mountain, it would cool off a little bit. So the best I could get was the second pool. There was a group of people that built a retainer wall around it. The bottom was all natural. It was sand, and we had to take care of it with chlorine. Every now and then we just shock it, so to speak, and it would turn all crystal clear, and all of the algae growth would go away. We cleaned the pool up all the time. 1896, the first resort opened here, listing a long list of ailments that the spring water cured. It would raise your body core temperature up enough that your brain thought it had a fever, and it would release what do you call them? Antibodies, white blood cell count. It cured a lot of stuff. Not like today's medicine. They give you a shot in the arm or in the hip, and there's a lot of antibiotics in there, and they run around the body and clean it up. But this water was hot enough that it would do a lot of that. You know how you run a fever, and you burn off a cold or something. Well, that's what happened up there. Many more buildings were completed between 1900 and 1905. Most of the wood that was there, that they built this place, was brought in on wagons. There was no road per se. There was a lot of washes that they used coming out of Morristown, Arizona. And they would pull these wagons up that hill and across the desert, and they started building that resort. And the wood was, they painted all the buildings a special color. It was yellow. The paint was even named Castle Hot Springs. So the famous Palm House, that was a huge hotel that was built. It was a massive building, just located out in the middle of the desert out there in a nice wide area, and that's where everybody came to stay, and to visit the resort and just hang out. Let's see. It burned down in 1976. I wasn't there when it happened. I arrived a few years later. In 1976, in the 1920s and 30s, many famous people visited the resort often enough to have their own bungalows built. The families include the Wrigleys, Vanderbilts, Weinbergs, Rockefellers, and even Zane Grey. All of their bungalows had nameplates over the porches, and that was their own personal house. We named them. Nobody called them by that name, but they were numbered 1 through 5, I think. Number 5 was the biggest building, bungalow, had 5 bedrooms in it, and 4 bathrooms. A huge living room with a fireplace that 2 people could stand in it upright. I would imagine that there was a lot of business deals that were worked out there on the whole property, I would think. And during this time, the resort installed the first telephone in Arizona. Its number was 1. Progress. World War II, the resort was used for troop rehabilitation. John F. Kennedy had his own bungalow out there. That's where he went to recoup after his PT ordeal. He was exhausted. He was wore out. He wasn't feeling well. He was hurt. So I guess the U.S. Navy, was it the U.S. Navy? Something. His commanders brought him out there, and he stayed there a while. Well, he recuperated. So over the next 30 years, the resort continued to operate until a devastating fire in '76. That was the Palm House that burned down. Since then, only caretakers remain, and the resort has changed hands many times. Much remains, including the main houses, the employees' building. It was like, we called it the dorm. It was just a big rectangle building, 2 stories, with rooms on each side, and that's where the faculty or the staff stayed when they weren't on duty. They had a kitchen out there, a fully staffed kitchen. The chef would prepare 3 meals a day for the guests, and the employees ate the same thing as everybody else did, just not together, I guess. Like I said, I wasn't there at that time. So after the big fire burned down, I believe they converted a building that we then now called the kitchen, and that's where the staff ate. I think the original owner's family donated it to ASU Foundation, Arizona State University Foundation. After that building burned down and they closed it, they couldn't operate as a hotel or a resort anymore. So when ASU took it over, they would use it for faculty rehabs. They'd all go out there in the summertime and hang out and relax. Big parties at ASU. So anyway, one day after I got there, I got to tell you about Frank. The ASU come out and told us that it was a new era, that they had sold the property. It had closed and the deed had changed hands. I think it was the Schlitz beer family that bought it, and everyone, all the staff, was asked to leave. But shortly after we were all ready for a season, everybody worked hard painting and cleaning, and the grounds were A-OK. They were perfect. A 9-hole golf course was maintained all the time. So anyway, they asked 4 of us to stay, my mother for one, and Bud Mullins, and myself and Frank. I don't know how Frank got there. I mean, it's out in the middle of the desert, and it's quite a walk. He didn't have a vehicle. I think it was like 20 miles from Lake Pleasant, but he came in from Phoenix, so probably took him a couple of days to get there. And the only thing, either that or got dropped, it just dawned on me. I think somebody dropped him off there. But anyway, he looked like he hadn't had a decent meal in a few days. So one thing about Castle Hot Springs, after it was closed, they gave Bud a budget, a liberal budget, and a truck, a steak bed truck, and he would go into town once a month, fill it up with good stuff, good food, man. And we ate very well. The only thing that we had to do was keep the property up. My mother and Bud were kind of like the managers. They were in charge of everything. And Frank and I lived down in the Wrangler shack, down by the big barn. And our job was to guard the gate. It was closed and private property at that point, so we couldn't let anybody in. A lot of people come by, wanted to take a tour, offered to pay to let them in, and we just couldn't do it. A lot of family came out, though. We'd allow the families to come in, of course. So anyway, I think that's I'm going to close this one out and make a part 2. This one's getting a little bit long, so tomorrow I'll bring out the pictures. I just wanted to kind of give you a little history lesson about it. Set this this 2-part, or maybe I hope it's not a 3-part, but it might turn into be. Get it going. So I'll sit down tomorrow and we'll go and look at some pictures that Joe has let me use, and I'll post the link to the site that I was telling you about. It's ghosttowns.com. States Arizona Castle Hot Springs HTML. You can do that, or you can do. I used Google search myself and just searched pictures of Castle Hot Springs, Arizona, and there's a bunch of stuff out there, but I can't get permission to use it. So I urge you to go and look at those sites and get an idea of what the place looked like and what it looks like now. So I'll talk to you soon. Probably I'll sit down in the morning and try to finish a second one up. I apologize. I've got a lot to say about this, so it'll take 2 at least. Have a good evening. Talk to you soon.